Hello, Dense MC here with another Charlie's Angels summary and review. Broadcast on January 25th, 1978, Angels on the Backfield is the 19th episode of the second season. After threats and an attack, a women's football team manager asks the Angels for help. Joining the lineup, the Angels discover a ruthless rival team owner, one team player who constantly fumbles, and another picking on her own teammates. This episode features Nancy Fox as female football team, the Ducks, Captain Amy Jarvis, Patch McKenzie, yes, that is the actress's name, as rival football team, the Panthers, owner Julia Smith, with a Y, and Garn Stevens as dyslexic Ducks player Pokey, actual name Elizabeth Mary. Also in this episode is L.Q. Jones as stubborn ex-football player and father to Amy, Dan Jarvis. He played a different character in Season 1's episode Bullseye. Gary Wood as ex-football player Joe Phillips. He also played a different character in Season 1's episode Angels on a String. And Heidi Von Beltz as aggressive Ducks player Grenelda. Interesting scene of the episode is when Pokey bumps into Bosley. She's very apologetic, and while Boz brushes it off with a joke, he quickly changes gears when he realizes he accidentally upset her with it. Writing Boz as charming, sympathetic, and later competent is rare, and this short scene does lead to some more fruitful investigative work done by him alone. Interesting dialogue of the episode is after Bosley IDs the distinctive motorcycle which harassed Pokey and later Kelly. Chris and Kelly think they'll wrap up the case before the big Coliseum match and not have to participate, but Sabrina suddenly disagrees. Kelly reflects a confused Chris and asks, "Bree, you want to play the Panthers?" And Sabrina responds, "I don't want to play the Panthers. I want to beat the Panthers." A corny line, but a good one in any sports show or movie. Interesting goof at around the 12-minute 27-second mark as Sabrina walks up the stairs, her cleated shoe catches on the gate stopper on the ground. Spot Sis Rundle. There she is. The title refers to the 1951 film Angels in the Outfield. These two stories have nothing in common, however, Outfield being about baseball and ghosts. Anyway, the Ducks manager Amy and her sexist father go to the Townsend agency after one of their players is harassed by masked bikers on the field, and there were threatening phone calls before that. Joining the Ducks football team are Kelly, Chris, and, in a rarity for sharing the same undercover role, Sabrina. During their practice, Bosley becomes friendly with Pokey, Grenelda picks on Chris, Joe approaches Kelly to offer tips, and Julia tries to poach Sabrina. The Angels notice Julia rides a motorcycle and becomes suspicious, but Julia becomes wary of Sabrina when she finds the Angel watching a Panthers practice. After a lunch date, Kelly and Joe are attacked by two bikers like the ones who attacked Pokey earlier. Joe has an old knee injury from his beloved sport, but his constant self-depreciating remarks start to anger Kelly. In the showers, Grenelda harasses Chris again, which leads to a fight, which Kelly steps in to help. It would have been more meaningful if Chris won the fight on her own, but whatever. The Ducks and the Panthers are about to have their first match against each other in the local Coliseum. Bosley and the Angels note that despite the previous night's concert being sold out, the women's football game got barely a fraction of the Coliseum seats sold. Bosley gets Pokey to identify one of the motorcycles, which is a rare Ford model, and she tells him she's dyslexic, which is why she's so clumsy making plays on the field. Chris and Kelly track down the distinctive motorcycle to her garage, where they see Joe packing climbing equipment into his van and leave behind some strange blueprints. Following him to the Coliseum and discovering his blueprints conveniently highlight a route that leads to an office safe, the Angels conclude it must be a robbery. Why is $1 million+ in ticket sales still sitting overnight in a regular office safe? How did Joe think rappelling down a rope on the front of a building in broad daylight with security right below a good idea? And if the point of harassing the Ducks into forfeiting the game so the Coliseum would be empty, why wouldn't full security still be there? So security spots the ropes and rushes to the office. Not sure if this is before or after the Angels alert them to the robbery. but Joe gets the drop on them. How is he going to get out of there with the rest of the security on alert and 2 guards missing? The Angels also rush in and stop Joe before more security shows up to arrest him. They come to the conclusion that Grenelda, who should have been fired at this point, but whatever, is a spy for the Panthers, as she and Julia were in the same sorority together. While Bosley says the case is done, Sabrina insists on continuing to help the Ducks play and win against the Panthers. Sabrina absolutely takes charge of the Ducks, Amy looking a bit bewildered on the bleachers, and uses Pokey's dyslexia against Grenelda, who is passing their plays to the Panthers. When Pokey is told to go left or right, she goes right or left, despite dyslexia commonly affecting reading and writing ability and not direction like the disability topographical agnosia. Fooled by plays that aren't following the Ducks' instructions, the Panthers lose by 1 point. Amy and her father make up, while the Angels realize Julia had nothing to do with the biker harassment or robbery. She's just a giant... Professional women's American-style football, or gridiron or tackle football, to differentiate it from soccer, is a real thing. But I can't blame anyone for not knowing, since even though it's been a thing since the 1880s, it sputtered in and out of existence and only gained traction in the early 2000s. For those who are aware of women's football, their impression of it may be closer to lingerie football, fantasy football, or the modern X-League. Anything to get bums in seats, I suppose. But real professional women's football does exist, finally. With this context in mind, it's easier to sympathize with Amy's uphill battle with her Bad News Bears type team, but the whole father-daughter thing was corny even back then. As noted in the spoilers, the actual crime and harassment plot makes no sense, and the female antagonists act like two-dimensional cartoon villains. IMDb gave this episode a 6.8 out of 10, and I can't honestly raise it any higher. It's a tough watch, despite being a legitimate historical time capsule on the rare sport. Good morning, Charlie.